Hello and welcome to Geeks Plus. My name is Spacehawk, and with me today is Chris Backe and Parker Simpson with Shiny Pigeon Games. They also run a division, Shiny Pigeon Printables, which we will be talking about one of the games today, which is Starfront Scouting Academy. So, guys, welcome. Thank you for joining me on this interview. Appreciate it.
Great to be here, buddy.
So I'm just gonna let you guys take it away. If you want to introduce yourselves and introduce, just talk about, a little bit about your game. Love to hear about it. So whoever wants to go first.
Go on, Parker.
So I'm Parker Simpson. I'm the founder of Shiny Pigeon Games. Um, we've launched a couple of boxed games in the last year or so, but we've pivoted recently to focus a bit more on the sustainability of printable games as well. Um, this is giving us a chance to have some new releases that are coming out between the longer periods between our boxed games, because a lot goes into it to create games and get them out there from start to finish. Um, my previous game, Trash Dash, which I designed and illustrated, we crowdfunded end of last year, so 2024. But we're going through the manufacturing process right now and should have the games fulfilled by the end of this year.
Hmm.
But I realized that there's just such a long period between that excitement of Kickstarter and like promoting and all of that stuff,
Hmm.
and then actually getting that product in hand. That I kind of wanted to focus a little bit more on some smaller projects in the meantime that we could kind of look at doing. That actually is where Chris comes in. I've worked with Chris on a couple of projects in the last 2 years, one
Yeah, that
year.
sounds about right. That
Yeah,
sounds about right.
uh, the recent past. Chris and I have worked together on a few games for No Box Games, which was kind of his brainchild that I came on board to help with the illustration work. But I'll let Chris talk about a bit about that, and then kind of the merger between the two companies. So, Chris.
Yeah, sure. I'm Chris Backe. It rhymes with hockey. I'm a game designer, originally from the Chicago area. I like long walks on the beach. Um, and when I'm not
Hi,
doing
Chris.
when I'm not doing bad jokes, I make board games. I just released a brand new book about playtesting from a fancy publisher. Um, and yeah, so I've worked with Parker now for a couple years now. And I initially started No Box Games, which was print and play games with no assembly required. We did Spies, we did Beards and Booty, and then Parker came on with Around the World in 10 to 15 minutes and did a kick butt job on Dragon versus Kingdom. So this game, Starfront Scouting Academy, is Parker and I's third game together,
Nice.
and the merger part basically just helped kind of solidify everything under one roof.
Yeah.
So the No Box brand is now part of is now basically Shiny Pigeon Printables.
Awesome. Awesome. That's really cool. And Parker, do you have a background? Is that something like the artwork? Do you do that professionally, or is it just something you kind of do? You started with the board game stuff.
Yeah, so I've been a freelance illustrator for about 10 years now.
Nice.
Um, in my day job, which I was actually able to transition out of in the last couple of years, I was a vet tech, so working with dogs and cats. Um, but doing the freelance illustration stuff kind of gave me some fun money to mess with in my off time. Um, that was actually how I got into the board game sphere.
Mm-hmm.
Is I did some projects for a couple of indie board game designers. They brought me out to Gen Con, which was actually my first experience in like the greater board game hobby space. But seeing the passion and creativity that they had, and then the reception from like the community as a whole made me really want to be a part of that. So I stepped into game design with Trash Dash, doing the illustration and the design work, which has led to a lot of really cool connections with folks like Chris, where we get to talk design, we get to work together on all of these cool little projects, and really excited about the continued partnership
That's awesome.
with Shiny Pigeon Printables as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool that you're able to do that and get to do what you love, you know? Um,
Yeah, well, and that's one of the reasons that I went into self-publication rather than pitching to publishers, is because I have the ability to do like everything from start to finish. Like I'm not the most skilled game designer in the world, but I've partnered with a lot of folks who can kind of help that side of things along. But I'm able to also do the illustration work, the graphic design work, the
yeah.
promotional materials. Like I can do a lot of stuff in house that not everybody is able to do.
Yeah.
So
If I
that's
if I was
part of what.
if I was designing a game, it'd just be stick figures. Really
Oh, for sure.
crudely badly
Hey, there's
drawn
there's
stick
there's nothing wrong
figures
with that.
on
Like,
cards. That's my
yeah.
game. That's it. Okay,
Mhm.
wait. I got an idea now.
Yeah.
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 Um,
The great thing about like the print and play model, and of course
Hmm.
we get to stand on the shoulders of some amazing designers as well. We had Voyages from Postmark Games that came out in 21 or 22 during the shipping crisis,
Hmm.
and that game had like 12 or 13,000 backers, and that was the first real print and play that made everyone kind of go, "Wow, you can make a great game." And then deliver it electronically. And because that was just like a one-page print-and-play game, um, it really opened the doors to getting people to think about this type of game. Now, um, you had a couple of excellent designers behind that, and it also kind of hit at just the right time. But what it did for me and other designers was it created this idea that you don't have to go through a publisher, you don't have to go through the game crafter, you don't have
Hmm.
to set up a company and do all these crazy things. You
Yeah.
can release a one-page, two-page print and play game, and then get that game out to your backers, your fans, your buyers quickly. And working with someone like Parker means you don't just get um, my version of stick figures, which is more deposit photos and
Hmm.
noun project icons. You get fully fledged professional artwork that would would look just as normal as if it came off a production line.
Hmm.
So you get fully fledged designs and fully illustrated art, and I'm really proud of the art that Parker's done.
Yeah. The artwork is. Oh, I only have experience with Starfront, but the art's awesome. So I really appreciate that. I talk about art a lot in my reviews, and I think the artwork is really fun. I mean, for this type of game. So let's jump into this game. How did you guys come up with the concept of Starfront?
so Chris, if you want to talk a bit more about the like the design aspects, we can kind of bridge it into like the thematic side of
Sure.
things as well. I'll kind of jump in there.
Yeah, sure. So the initial idea of Starfront started out as a game called Stake Your Claim, and actually really surprising how little of the mechanics have changed over time. But basically, I like the idea of using dice to generate numbers,
Mm-hmm.
and not just a number like there are 6 pips on the dice, so 6 is the number. Um, in Starfront Scouting Academy, you're using dice to generate the numbers, but from a specific region to make a mark on a 10 by 10 grid. And um, it's all about area control. And so as you're looking at the mechanics of the game, you're using the different regions in the dice rondel to choose not just the number you want, but the region, the type of place that you want.
Yeah.
So in Starfront, we'll use one region and we'll just go 5 plus a number, and we'll look for that region on the map. And so that mainly came about from wanting to play with dice, to claim numbers, and then to use the numbers that you claimed in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Parker had the great idea to retheme it to Starfront Scouting Academy.
Yeah, so one of the things that I really enjoyed about this design is the fact that there's so much interplay with which of the dice you're using. So for your viewers who don't know what the heck we're talking about, in the game you've got a pie chart with 4 different sections, and between each of those sections you have a single dice. So you can use the single dice in either of the sections that it's touching. So you have a lot of option for how you're generating these numbers based off of the type of terrain that you're going for. But you are still limited by the physical numbers that are on the dice.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that really made me want to push forward with this design, because Chris has all sorts of wild game designs that could be implemented for print and play, but this specific mechanism with the dice mechanic was just really exciting to me for some reason. And I'm not normally like a Euro player, but like something about this specific system was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we went back and forth a bit about the actual theme of the game, because it was a bit abstract with the stake your claim uh, concept. We'd gone back and forth about like trying to, because it was originally with stake your claim, it was originally um, gold mining. Was that right?
Yeah, it kind of went back and forth in a couple of different ways, but at one point the idea was like you would you would say, I'm going to go to this place and I'm going to stake my claim, but on this specific square
Mm-hmm.
of the 10 by 10 grid. And so by choosing the dice you wanted to use, that gave you the right to cross off or mark that space on the 10 by 10 grid.
Yeah.
It was vaguely gold mining. Um, and obviously with a lot of published games, because I also make published games that I pitch and sign with traditional publishers. So a lot of times those games, you make the mechanics and you find the fun, you find the experience,
Mm-hmm.
and the theme that you have attached to that game, uh, canon will change.
Yeah.
So you don't get too attached to a theme, because as long as the fun and the experience are there, then that's where the theme can be tweaked and then mechanics can be tweaked as well
Yeah.
to fit that theme.
So, did the mechanics for the most part stay the same between the original concept to the, I guess, the final product?
Yeah. The scoring has changed a little bit to create a bit more variability.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, the core loop, what you do on the turns, has really stayed the same.
Yeah.
Um, and in terms of the actual theming, um, we kind of approached it with what kind of world or environment or whatever would make sense with um, choosing places on a map, um, specifically 4 different types of places on a map. Um, and I'm very much so like a sci-fi
Mm-hmm.
fan. So my brain naturally just goes into all the different tropes that you could kind of mess with, and space exploration is always a really exciting topic.
Yeah.
Um,
Big fan.
yeah, yeah. So I wanted to kind of lean into that, but not necessarily go with like a traditional terraforming Mars
Yeah.
sort of like very sciency version. Um, a lot of my like art style and my game mechanisms in my own personal games, like they
Mm-hmm.
lean more into like the whimsical or like sometimes even goofy um, space. So I wanted to dive into that aspect of like the space genre with like silly aliens or like wild like unexplored terrains on this like weird planet.
Well, you're also
So that's
you're building you're crafting within your game, within the mechanics. You're also crafting a little bit of a story. You know, you're crafting a world with the
yeah.
whole scout
I'm
units and the ship and the naming your character and this cadet and the exam and stuff like that. So, that's a really important part of it.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm big on immersion
Yeah,
in my games. With Trash Dash, you're playing as street animals. So you've got like raccoons, possums. There's pigeon in there,
that sounds
but they're
awesome.
not just. Thank you. But they're not just random critters. Like each
Yeah.
of these critters has their own little name, and they've got a backstory of that kind of plays into like their
Mm.
personality, which bleeds into their play style in the game. So even with like silly stuff like critters, like I'm very focused on creating that storyline, that lore that pulls players in and makes them care a little bit more about
Yeah.
like what they're doing. So even while in Starfront you're not explicitly learning about like who these cadets are and like the specific things about this planet, you can read into it,
Yeah.
like as a player, like you can relate to these characters, you can come up with whatever sort of story you want about how they came to the academy or what type of exploration they really like or
Mm-hmm.
which equipment types they prefer to work with. And if you're not into that sort of thing, you can just ignore that part.
Yeah.
So like you can just focus on the mechanisms and like play the game for um, the the experience that it
Mm-hmm.
provides. Um, but that is there for players who want to engage with like the actual theme and the story behind it
Yeah.
as well.
That's awesome. I now, for those listening, I've actually had the chance to play this game. It is really fun. It's really fast paced. It's a lot more fast paced than I thought it would be. Like once you understand on how to play the game, it was going fast. It was going really fast. We were marking. Did you guys intend it to be that way, like a super fast paced game, or more slow thinking about it strategically kind of thing? Or
So there are two things I always try to put into games. One of them is interesting decisions, and the other is player interaction.
mm-hmm.
So with interesting decisions, I sometimes try to picture the little angel on one shoulder and the little devil on the other shoulder, each kind of like, no, 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 go on, do it, do it. And the other's like, well, actually, hold back, hold on, wait just a second now. I want you to feel like you're being pushed and pulled in these two different ways, and that's what creates an interesting decision for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the player interaction comes from the feeling of I'm not just doing something that helps me. I'm doing something that either messes with you or kind of messes with your plan a little
Yeah.
bit. So um, you won't always get the perfect chance to see all of the different options, but because the player just in front of you, they'll only be messing with a couple of dice. You can kind of have your eyes on the die you want to use and the region it's in. You can kind of be able to look ahead and say, okay, if he doesn't take that die right there, I'll be able to go there and do that thing I want to do. Um, and then of course, if you're experienced players playing together, maybe don't look too carefully at the die you want, or else they'll see you looking at that and go, why is he looking? Oh, wait a second. He's looking at that die because if he can do that,
Yeah.
then exactly.
Well,
So
I will. I am one person. Like me and my wife are totally different. Like minds when it comes to board games, and I'm one that'll be like, all right, this will do this and this will do this, and my wife's like, I'll just play it, take it as it comes, like, all right,
Yeah.
in the moment. So there was plenty of times where I played where I'm like, oh, if I get a 5, I can complete this diamond, and then I could mark the first player the place on the sheet for
Over the
The pattern.
patterns.
the pattern.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, I got to do it. And then she would do something else. I'm like, crap, now I got to think of another strategy
Yep.
because she messed up my strategy. So that we found, though, as we would go, it was faster and faster as we felt more comfortable with the gameplay and the flow and the mechanics and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
needless to say, I used my scout die probably way more than I should have. And it
Yeah.
really
Well,
screwed me over at the end.
nice. Well, yeah, so to answer your question, yes, I absolutely like making games that allow you to kind of take it slow to start
Mm-hmm.
to get your mechanical competency into play. But once you kind of know how to play, you then really get into the what do you want to do? What's your strategy? How carefully do you want to look at your opponent's board and options? So keeping the admin simple and to keep that flow as simple as possible was definitely a big part of the playtesting of this, to keep that simple
Yeah.
but still strategic.
Yeah. And it makes it fun.
Something in regards to the actual initial interpretation of the game is the dice generator can look a bit intimidating when you first sit down because it's got it's got 5 dice on it. It's got the different ways that you can generate numbers, and some players will see that and be like, "Whoa, this is a lot of maths." Like, that's a little scary. But once you have taken a couple of turns and you can see how the matrix works, it does get pretty snappy, and it's simple math.
Yeah.
So don't
Add
let
5.
it scare you if you add 5, subtract these dice.
Yeah.
Don't let that intimidate you if you look at it and feel like, oh, this is a lot of arithmetic.
Yeah. Well,
things do get pretty snappy as you go.
yeah. I think my wife's strategy, because my strategy when playing was definitely do the patterns. That was 100. I was like, look, if I get these patterns, man, I'll be ahead. And I focus way too much on the patterns, and my wife will and I'm done. Row done. We're done. her goal was just to make me not do that, just burn time, which I wind up losing by quite a bit. So it was 30. It was 53 to 33. I was
wow.
come on, man.
Yeah, the patterns can be kind of a trap because if you focus on them really hard to try to get that first place, some other players will just slowly and always in the game, if you create the pattern first, you get bonus points. But other players can still make those same patterns. So if they ended up making the pattern after you, they would get points for it. It would just be less than what you earned. But I don't know. I've played with some people where they do their own little strategies, ignoring the patterns, and then they get the last 3 turns of the game, they just oh, I can complete this pattern here, or oh, I can complete this one here. Look at that, that's great. I was able to get all these patterns done just in the last 3 turns. It's frustrating for me.
That was not my wife's strategy. On her card, it was literally all the bottom, and that was it.
Oh.
Nice.
And I was like, how did you win? I don't even know how you won. She did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should have saved some of those scout dice, man.
I should have.
that robot dice. Robot dog.
And for context, for context here, obviously there's 3 different sections on the score sheet. There's the numbers, there's the terrain, and there's the pattern. And so obviously I'm guessing you play with all 3 of them. But if you're playing for the first time, pick 2 of them.
Yeah.
Pick any 2 of them. Doesn't matter which 2 you pick. Heck, just pick one of them. If you want to just play it, if you're playing with kids, if you want to just find a real easy mode, then just focus on one of these 3 dimensions here. There will still be points scored from the always in play stuff, the biggest groups,
Mm-hmm.
the claims that finish the game, those sorts of things. So there'll be plenty of ways to score points. Playing with all three options is, I think that's the best way to play. But please, if you're playing for the first time, if you're watching this, feel free. You are at liberty. You have my permission. Choose one, choose any two, or choose all three. It's set up to be kind of modular that way. It's entirely up to you.
Yeah. And it works. It really does because I was trying to play with all three and it did not work. My wife had a specific strategy and it worked for her and she still beat me. So, yeah. That's what I say about that. But no,
Let's
Go
this
say
Spacehawk's
something
way.
yeah.
more about your strategy than than
Uh,
her.
right. And I was obsessed with using the scout dice. I was like, I shouldn't have done that. But I was like, this is gonna bite me. I don't care.
Hey, well, using the robot dog, like he's great because he opens up so many more opportunities for viewers. The scout dice is your scouting companion for observation in unknown terrain. That's what the robot dog's acronym is for. But he sits in the middle of all of the terrains
Mhm.
and can go into any of those sections. Um, there's no penalty for using him, but each time you use him, you lose a bonus point that you would get otherwise. So there's some incentive to hold on to those and
Yeah.
not use it if you can avoid it. But I see some people who they just scout dice every single turn and just end up having a much better
Yeah.
like flexibility to their gameplay. So it's something that you have to either avoid or lean really heavily into and take advantage of.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So you guys are gonna
And
like. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, in really close games, like I have definitely played and play tested games where the winner has come down to just having 1 or 2 points more. It'd be like 68 to 66 or something like that. And you kind of go, if I had just not used that scout dice that one time, it can come down to something like that. So yeah, it can definitely be either extreme, but just that choice every time. It might only be 1 point,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing it gets you is more than that. So you always have to make that choice every time. Is it worth using the scout dice or not? Because it is a wild die, basically. It can
Yeah.
go with any of the terrains.
Yeah. Well, you guys might find this very fascinating. My scout die because you're supposed to use a different die for use for the same and
Frequently.
one a little different. So I had our scout die was my daughters had the My Little Pony TTRPG book, and there was
Nice.
the orange D6 that had a star on it. I was like, oh, I guess this is gonna be our scout
That's cute, man. I like it.
Nice.
So I borrowed my daughter's My Little Pony dice, and sure enough, that was our scout die, and it worked really well for the theme of the game. It was bright and shiny and glittery, and
I can see why you wanted to use it all the time. So
right.
I 100% side with you on using it aggressively.
Absolutely. So one
Yeah.
thing I do really like about this game is that it's 1 to 6 players. Um, there's plenty of times where I'm playing games that I'm stuck with 4 players unless I get an expansion or, you know, I'm unfortunately stuck with 3 players or anything like that. So I do enjoy the 1 through 6, and then it is an extra row, right? If you have more than a certain number of players, is that correct? To
At
complete
the
the
end of
game.
the game,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm.
So the game ends in most cases with one row, one column, or one corner to corner diagonal. I think it's five or six players where you get that. But yeah, there's actually a fun story behind the solo mode. Um, Parker, you want to explain how Professor Bell got into the game?
Oh yeah, yeah. I know you were talking about kind of the higher player counts, but we did also want to um, make sure that you could play it solo, so that you can kind of practice your
Mm-hmm.
scouting skills outside of the exams. Um, so this is something that me and Chris had kind of worked on off and on. But I have a couple designer friends that I trust with like helping with development work. So I had sent it out to them because I was like, hey, it's a print and play, print it at home, do a solo test, like try out these rules to see how this works. Um, and my buddy Edward Bell, he's a fantastic designer. I've worked with him on a couple illustrations for some of his projects. Um, but he broke open um, our simulator mode. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the way that we were having the simulator mark off extra spaces, because you'll take your turn as normal, but then the simulator will mark off spaces on the map depending on certain things.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to even recollect what the previous version did to do this. Um, but he helped us kind of develop out the specific mode um, of marking that we hadn't kind of thought of. And it clicked really, really well. So, Chris, I don't know if you want to kind of go over the specific mechanics.
Yeah, so basically, Edward had some ideas for how to make the solo admin faster, easier, and more intuitively.
Mm-hmm.
And um, as soon as I read Parker's suggestions from Edward, I was like, okay, that makes a whole lot more sense. Um, I made some minor tweaks and then just kind of ran with it, and it worked as expected. It play tested well, um, and more importantly, because with a solo game, you want to feel like you're kind of up against it. You don't want to feel like
Mm-hmm.
it's just this pushover. And so Edward's suggestions kind of forced to basically in the solo mode, whenever you take an action, you this the storm is your opponent. The storm is marking spaces with an X, and this is a space you cannot go. It's like someone else marked it.
Mm-hmm.
And because the storm is always marking things in the same row or column that you're in, and it will kind of expand as necessary to find the first empty spaces, it made it, it forced you to kind of branch out and always go to different spaces. So it's, it is a hard solo mode, but it's also easy to admin. So you get that fun, interesting, almost agonizing decision of where do I go, what do I do, and you can also kind of look ahead because if you can also go, if I do this, then the storm will dot dot dot. You can kind
Mm-hmm.
of plot it out, and you can kind of weigh out those pros and cons in a way that I that didn't happen in my original solo mode. So props, Edward. Thank you for your thoughts there, and you have been immortalized as Professor Bell in the solo rules.
Yeah,
Nice.
he's part of the academy now.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So,
That's
but
awesome.
that's one of the great things about being connected with other designers as well,
Yeah.
is you have so many blind spots in the design process that like getting different perspectives and having other people mess with your game definitely helps improve things. Like
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
regardless of, you could be the best designer in the world, somebody is still going to think differently than you do
Yeah.
and potentially have a better idea than you, or a better idea for the problem you're trying to solve.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Not necessarily that they're great, like perfect ideas, bad ideas, whatever.
Yeah.
yeah.
But there's specific problems that you want to solve in game design. Um, so yeah, that's
And and what actually happened in a different game? I come back to this because it's really important for if you're listening to this, your play testers will have awesome, amazing ideas, and it's on you as the designer to listen to it always and to kind of take notes and stuff. But one of the best ideas I had for a different game um, was basically just one other designer as a playtester kind of going, well, what if you dot dot dot? He suggested one rule change, which he explained in a sentence, And what that did was it fixed, like, it kind of killed like three birds with one stone.
Mm-hmm.
Because it changed it made the rules simpler, and it changed the incentives so that you were always doing what it wanted you to do, and it also caused other things to happen in the game that kind of set the next player up for an interesting, clever turn.
Yeah.
So one rule change led to all these sort of knock-on effects, and so yeah, props to playtesters for offering great ideas. And
Oh yeah.
anytime you can start off your question as a what if, that's when my ears kind of go, "Ooh, yes, please go on, go on."
Tell me more. Yeah.
I-
That's awesome, guys. Well, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you guys like to talk about? Also, when is this game? When is the Kickstarter kicking off?
Yeah, so enrollment for Starfront Scouting Academy starts on July 15th. It's going to run for a couple of weeks. It won't be like a full 30-day campaign. So make sure that you are there and ready to sign up for classes early so you don't miss it. But it'll be on Kickstarter, like I said, July 15th.
Awesome. 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 Well, hey, I appreciate you guys joining me and getting to introduce Starfront Scouting Academy. It is a really fun game. I've gotten a chance, like I said, I've gotten a chance to play it. Super, super fun. I know with the copy that Parker sent me, there is also a low ink version, which is also super nice to have. But the artwork, you want to print it in color because the artwork is just it hits a little different on the color version. But well, guys, that is
Well,
going to
and
be. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say one note for folks who are not used to print and play games. We specifically design our games to be no assembly required.
Mhm.
So what that means is you are going to look at the component sheet, print out the specific pages that you need, grab a couple of components, so like dice, pins, that sort of thing. But then you're ready to go. Like you don't have to cut out any cards. You don't have to make any like ridiculous arts and crafts or anything like that. You are printing and you are playing. And like you said, the colored sheets are gorgeous. Not to toot my own horn, but colored sheets are so much nicer than the low ink. But I do recommend either laminating or
Yes.
using like sheet protectors.
Yeah.
You can just print things once, use dry erase markers, and you are good to go.
Yeah, that's actually what we wind up doing is we just laminated all the sheets and now we could just replay. So,
there you
but
go.
but guys, thanks again. I really appreciate it. And guys, that's going to be it for us tonight. Stay safe, stay nerdy, be blessed, and we will catch you next time for more.